Alright, thought I'd give the Zach thing one more try. It's probably going to be more than one more try. So sorry if this is getting redundant, but I think it's an argument worth having. It's the same argument I'd have with the anarchist almost in a way. That's kind of ironic that me and Bella are allies against Zach and then we're enemies in other conversations. And it's funny how this diversity thing keeps spinning, keeps getting us into trouble. And that's sort of my argument, is that's one of the unsustainable elements of humankind is diversity. And that's why I've advocated a solution that allows diversity to exist, because it takes its teeth out. It takes the danger out of it. But we won't go into virtual reality too much, not on purpose. So what I would argue to Zach, look, my argument is simple. You can't put the technology genie, the intelligence genie, back in the bottle. There's no way. It's not going to happen. It's like the NRA argument. The only way you're going to pry intelligence and technology out of human beings is it's going to be out of their cold, dead hands. Okay, as long as there's human beings existing, technology and a thirst for knowledge and a thirst for control is going to exist. There's no way human beings are going to willfully revert to being vulnerable to the whims of nature and circumstance and chance and good or bad luck and all that other crap. It's just no way. It's not in the human nature to give up a fight, and that's essentially just giving up the fight. You've used the metaphor of this train and going over the cliff, and it's a good metaphor, but it isn't really, and it lacks perfection. I agree there's going to be a crash, but it's not going to be train going over a cliff kind of crash, because there's going to be residue and effects of the crash, and they're not going to be escapable. You can't just jump off the train and expect that the crash is going to happen without affecting you. It's just not going to happen that way. There's no way to escape the consequences of the crash. And so we have every incentive to stay on the train and to control the crash, to do what we can to control the crash. And people who have jumped off the train aren't going to be able to help us control the crash. They're just of no use whatsoever. So your whole strategy that somehow being prepared to live without technology is somehow going to make us more competent or capable to manage the crash, I think is just idiotic. I don't think it's going to have any practical effect. We have to try to get our hands on the wheel, the steering wheel. We have to try to get our hands on the brake level. We have to try to get our hands on the control features that exist in this scenario, and to do whatever we can to calculate a way through this scenario that we're going to spin through, this whirlwind that we're going to be trapped in. And it's not going to be literally me or me, maybe. It might be you. You're younger. But we don't know when the real shit is going to hit the fan. Because some of these sustainable, unsustainable elements of our existence can be mitigated. Some of them are short-term, fixable, and some of them are going to take really long-term answers, whole corrections in how we exist. I'd say, yeah, the environmental stuff, we can get past that. We can get past the overpopulation. Those are easy policy fixes. We can fix the democracy, as I pointed out, our democracies. We can fix our policy. We can be more principled in how we exist and less vulnerable to the beast, the selfish human nature being let loose to run rampant in the environment. And I think we can mitigate against those disasters. We can buy time. I think some of the disasters, the convergence of technology and the human tendency towards competition and violence, is a scenario that's still waiting out there for us. There's a doom out there. There's a Bin Laden doom. Okay, Bin Laden 4, Bin Laden 7, whatever number it is. There's a doomsday scenario out there that's going to be really hard to overcome or defend against, because it's going to crumble civilization in a way that's just going to leave radioactive debris, literally. So that kind of stuff we've got to try to do everything we can to avoid those scenarios. And finding the solution, it's like if you gotta, I've made this analogy before, but I'll throw it out there again. I mean, we've got to find cures for these problems. Treatments aren't going to work. Treatments, we just keep sopping up the blood. We're not doing anything about the wound. We're not doing anything about the thing that's, making this circumstance unsustainable. And you keep blaming technology. Well, technology is not going away. So if you're correct, which I don't think you are, but even if you are, it's not going anywhere. So you have to find something. You have to find some other mechanism outside of eliminating that to make this thing called technology benign and inert. You got to find a different kind of cure. You got to find a way around that. I would argue that the problem is human psychology. That's part of what has to be fixed, and you have to have systems that human beings live in that have enough controls in them to manage that psychology. That's, again, like I said, I advocate a world where we take human vice, and essentially that's all we're made out of is vice. You can pretend it's something else, but I think that's pretty much what all desire is, and give it free rein in some sort of environment where perceptually we can be what we are by nature, which is a competing and base and desirous and gluttonous animal. And I think we can then find a way to control that animal, put limits on it, pull its teeth, so to speak, but take the nuclear bomb out of its pocket, and find a way to give human consciousness, maximize its potential and minimize its destructive, dangerous potential. But regardless, whatever we can agree on the first 10 steps. We really can, and that's the part that's so frustrating. If you could just let go of this anti-civilization rhetoric, we could agree on the first 10 steps. We could agree that what exists absolutely sucks. We can agree on that, and we can agree that it has to go down, and we can agree that we want to be able to make it go down in as controlled and as less destructive a manner as possible. We can agree on those three things. Let's have that scenario. Let's agree on those things and wait until we have the crash and we made it as minimal as possible, and then we can kill each other over, whether we're going to go back to nature or whether we're going to go build a better future with technology. Then we can have that war. But until we get to that point, let's agree on what we can agree on and fight for doing those things that we can do, and taking some control over the system that exists, because that's really, if your only answer is let's just jump ship, well, fuck, that's just not going to, that's not going to be helpful. That's not going to get us to that stage where we can actually have a choice about what we do with human destiny, because we'll have enough control to make a choice and make a decision. Because you're not going to be able to make it in chaos. Chaos is not going to work for you. I'm sorry. In a chaos environment, an anarchy environment, you're going to lose. Your holistic, pleasant bullshit idealism is not going to be the dominant and winning feature. Okay, it's just no probability of that happening. We know human nature, and the takers are going to take. It's that simple. There's too few givers in the world. There really are. There's just too few. They're outnumbered. And you're not going to convert all the takers into givers. And so I just don't see any chance of your world having any possibility of ever existing. It's just not a possibility. So, until you can get to some kind of scenario where I can see some kind of something, some kind of first steps or steps that make sense, but jumping ship just doesn't, I just don't see how that does any good whatsoever. This ship is going to crash, and we have to make it crash the right way. That's the only answer. And you're just not going to do that swimming for your new island, because your new island's just going to be owned by the same people who are going to survive the ship crash. They're going to find you on your damn island, and they'll ruin it for you. So fuck it. It's not going to happen. There's no chance. So anyway, I really don't want to be constantly arguing with you or disagreeing with you. I like your passion, but like I said, I can't do anything else but argue with you about this, because we can't agree on a first step. We can't agree. The only thing we agree on is that what exists must go. But what you're attacking is the very thing that's going to motivate, in my opinion, people to get to that frickin' engine room and take control of this thing. You're just basically telling them all, well, get stoned, jump ship, do this, do that, and that's not going to do me any good. I have to get people to get there and take control of this damn thing. I got to find people willing to do something to fight to take control of this system, not people who want to just sit there and say, I'm just going to jump and hope for the best. Because that's just not going to work. Hoping isn't going to make it happen. People have to do something, okay, in the system. Not outside the system, in the system. So, enough of a rant.